This has Jays fans fired up, is following another brutal loss against the Baltimore Orioles, losing 10-1. Jays fans have had enough with the Jays. They've had enough with John Schneider, and especially Ross Atkins. And fans have stopped showing up for the games, as yesterday marked a new low for their attendance. And it just seems like fans are losing interest in the team. And Ross Atkins was even trending because of his disaster class that he's done so far this season. So to break all that down in this episode, before I do, if you're a part of the percentage who are not subscribed, about 70% of you, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we produce daily Jays content. But what a heartbreaking past couple of games. Coming into the series, the Jays had a bit of momentum after winning 4 of their last 5, coming in against one of the best teams in the MLB in the Baltimore Orioles and getting absolutely crushed in both games. Neither of them were quite close at all. And the Jays debuted their new jersey. All these things are good. Jays, Rogers Center has the new renovations, and none of that seems to matter right now for Toronto Blue Jays fans, as they lose again, and they just are so sick of the team. And I'm going to get into a lot of different things in this video, because this is going to be more of a rant video, because quite frankly, the Jays are just in a horrible spot right now. You can look at the overview of the team. Last in the AL East, they're 28-32. And you look at the schedule, they lost to the Orioles yesterday, 10-1. The game before, 7-2. Neither of them were close after winning a couple against Pittsburgh. But as we've been echoing the entire season, especially over the last few weeks, the Jays just did not do enough in the offseason to warrant a chance to really make the finals or make even the playoffs at this point, because it's Ross Atkins' fault. Obviously, he was the one who constructed this team. He was the one who put together all of the trades. Yes, some of the trades were good, and on the channel, Peter and I have been defending Ross Atkins for a while, but it's really hard. When you saw it in yesterday in Peter's video with Peter, when Peter said it, it's really hard to defend the team anymore. It's hard to defend Ross Atkins at this point, because he was the one who traded all of these guys, brought all these guys in, and they have not been able to have any success. And you look back to last offseason, just a few months ago, when they were close to getting Shohei Ohtani, they didn't get him, and they pivoted by acquiring Justin Turner, who's been really lackluster, IKF, who's been obviously very good, but they just did not bring in enough. When you look at the rivals in the AL East, the New York Yankees brought in Juan Soto, the Baltimore Orioles are the Orioles, and they brought in Corbin Burns. Like, I don't know why the Jays thought they would be able to get away with the team that they have right now. And it's running, and the Jays are quite frankly running out of time. We've seen numerous reports saying that they might be willing to be sellers. Ross Atkins came out and said that they aren't going to be sellers, but that could change if at the deadline the Jays are plummeting. Jeff Passan, reported that yesterday, and I'm going to show you some screenshots of the sentiments of Jays fans right now. And this was from Keegan Matheson. He is a Blue Jays writer, and this kind of encompasses what Jays fans are feeling very well. He said, yesterday's loss felt heavy. Some can be dismissed. Some loss can be stuffed into the folder of silver linings and locked in a drawer. Others, like the loss yesterday to the Orioles, doesn't fit, because they were, quote, this is from Keegan Matheson. He goes to every single Jays game. He's a Jays writer. We're outplayed in every way, and losses like this go beyond the numbers. This is about the feeling of it all at a time where the Jays so desperately needed to really feel something positive, because they haven't felt anything positive. Again, they won. They came into this series winning, I think, 4 of the last 6 or 5 of the last 7. Things were looking good, albeit they were against very poor teams. You come into the Orioles, you're thinking, okay, let's at least split the series. Let's try to get some positive momentum going before we have a bit of an easy schedule, before it gets really hard with the gauntlet of the Orioles again and the New York Yankees. And they did the opposite. They don't even look close with the Orioles at all regarding competitiveness. The Orioles are better in every single way, better hitting, better pitching, better fielding, better coaching, better everything. And it's at the point now where I don't know where the Jays pivot from here. We know that they might be trading Bo Bichette. They might be trading Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if things continue to spiral. But like Keegan Matheson says here, this loss can't be dismissed. And John Schneider came out and spoke out about the loss and basically just said, the pitcher's very good, but you can't say that every game. The offense has to get going. And I think he's aware that his job's on the line, because at this point, something needs to change. And again, like the standings are looking a bit rough right now. They're last in the AL East. And if you told me at the start of the season that they'd be last in the AL East, however many games we're in, 60 games in, I would be a little bit surprised. But based on the offseason acquisitions, I wouldn't be shocked. And that's exactly where the Jays are. Even the pitching has regressed way more than we thought. The bullpen ended up regressing. Like, in a season where Ross Atkins came out and said, we didn't make too many acquisitions because we're banking on internal improvements, all those internal improvements have really switched the other way, from the bullpen, from the starting pitching staff, who's been okay, but not elite like they were last year. And then, of course, Vladdy, who's been very good as well. But You can see some Twitter, some Jays Twitter. They're just very upset. This is how fans are feeling. Now he says here, this series was the test by various Blue Jays pundits. This is how mad people are about Ross Atkins. He was trending on Twitter in the middle of the game yesterday, and he's saying we're not a serious team. We have the worst analytics department in baseball and a front office that's closed without answers. I don't agree with everything he's saying, especially the curse words in there. But what I do agree with is the fact that Ross's time is probably going to be up, and he's not wrong. We're not a serious team. He said Ross Atkins and his minions stink. We're not a serious team. Worst analytics department of baseball, that's debatable as well. But the front office has not done anything to garner the attention of the fans and the respect of the fans at this point. And that is why fans are coming out and being so upset at a point where this was supposed to be where the Jays are contending for a World Series. And they're doing the polar opposite of that by not only contending for a playoff spot, but not even contending for a playoff spot. You can see this here. Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins should be fired before sunrise. This was following last night's game. They inherited one of MLB's best teams and drove it into the ground. Enough is enough. And again, I don't necessarily agree with the whole point of that tweet, but the point is that fans have really had enough of this team, and I don't blame them. You look at how good they were supposed to be, and like he said, they were supposed to be one of the best teams in the MLB right now. And they aren't. They're just not. They're one of the worst teams, and not one of the worst teams, but really on the lower echelon of teams in the MLB. And it comes to a point where what do you do with Ross Atkins? What do you do with John Schneider? And what do you do with the core where Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette are both pending free agents after next year? George Springer's aging. A lot of your guys who you're relying on who've helped the Jays get a lot of wins this year, Yusei Kikuchi, Jimmy Garcia has been the rock in the bullpen, are also pending UFAs, unrestricted free agents. What do the Jays do at this point is the question. And this kind of summarizes up everything from Blake Murphy yesterday, even regarding how John Schneider is not even safe at this point. Going to Cabrera instead of Francis first. This was in yesterday's game in case you missed it. And then letting Cabrera pitch to Rutschman despite the extreme splits, and then asking Bowden Francis to enter with runners on instead of a clean inning. A tour de France on how to botch a good opener from Richards. John Schneider's made some questionable decisions too. I don't think it's his fault fully. I do think that a change of scenery, I don't know if he's lost the locker room. We saw Charlie Montoyo get fired a couple of years ago because the locker room was lost at about this time of the season, a bit later, when a bit before, when the Jays had a positive or a better record than they do now. But can you allow Ross Atkins to go out again and fire another manager, even though he is the one who has constructed the team? The manager can only do so much, which is ultimately the funny part about this, is that their prospect pool is looking thin. Their team is looking not great. Their acquisitions in the offseason are looking, some of them are looking okay, some of them aren't, but they did not do enough to be World Series contenders at all. And they're facing a point where they might not even make the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs, we're looking at a very, very different conversation heading into the offseason. And before we wrap up, I want to show you this. Feel free to pause and look at it. You might have to zoom in a little bit, but this was I just saw this report card after 60 games based on the team's records of every single player. Feel free to pause and read through these and leave in the comments what you would grade or any of these grades you disagree with. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it was a fun activity to go through. And it kind of goes to show how many players are underperforming for the Toronto Blue Jays and how many players are just in a weird spot. Like we're having Alejandro Kirk is having a down year. You have all these guys. Bo Bichette is having the worst season of his career. So in a year where everyone was supposed to bounce back, the polar opposite is happening, and it leaves the Jays in rock bottom mode. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. A very unfortunate time to be a Blue Jays fan, but they have a chance to turn it around tonight again against the Baltimore Orioles. And if you want to check out a video from yesterday, click on your screen now. We'll see you tomorrow.